Matthew Reich is the co-founder of Artists for Artists and Artists for Action, a man who turned his garage band into a cultural movement, gets Ringo Starr into bed with mayors, and made empathy sound like a competitive advantage instead of an HR seminar. And now your host, Pesach Lattin, the Rabbi of Row Ass, the Rebbe of Reach, the Maggid of marketing mayhem, part prophet, part provocateur, all chutzpah, where every guest is a witness and every buzzword gets cross-examined.
I'm Pesach Lattin. Welcome to the ADOTAT Show. This is where all marketing myths come to die, slide dicks go to be composted, and everyone claimed to have reinvented authenticity gets a raised eyebrow and a follow-up question sharp enough to peel paint. Today's victim, perhaps volunteer, is Matthew Reich for Artists and Artists for Action, a guy who somehow manages to connect humans in a world allergic to eye contact, build culture the way that other people build IKEA furniture, and still find time to be an actual parent-sized superhero? So the most important question, how are you doing, Matthew? And don't give me the standard good, busy, blessed answer.
I am busy, I am blessed, and happy to be here with you.
So you're running AFA at a time when culture behaves like a malfunctioning Roomba. It bumps into everything, gets stuck under the couch of public discourse, and occasionally spits out a gem before driving straight off a cliff.
I'd like to think we're the gem in that situation. But yeah, it's an odd time for culture in the world, but we're trying to do our small part in making the world a better place in some way for humans.
So I'll be honest, every CMO right now hates this word authentic.
Yes.
I hate it. I've hated it let's be more authentic. As if that itself solves everything to say it. It's like the magical words gets you to Narnia. So explain to me, like I'm a bewildered CMO, what does authentic actually mean in 2025, and how on earth do you expect to build a human connection when attention spans have devolved into something you usually diagnose as a medical emergency?
I agree with you there. I think that it's definitely trite using the word authentic because obviously everybody's aiming to be in that sphere. What I can say is that, one of the goals that we have with Artists for Artists is to bring people together in unique, one-of-a-kind circumstances and have a shared experience that's very human, like me and you talking right now. Make it memorable and have an impact. And I think that's just people talking. Yeah, and that's part of it. So it's, we largely work within the talent field. So everything that we do has talent or music at the center of it. So we create one-of-a-kind experiences with talent and musicians, bringing people together around a central focus, and then having a shared experience that is, dare I say, authentic.
So give me a moment when an AFA project went from a nice mood board to hell, people's souls cracked open for a second. What was that spark, the pivot, the cosmic jolt that made it all real?
A specific circumstance you're talking about.
That moment.
I mean, luckily I get to have many of these moments, and there's a ton of...
And with music in the background too, usually.
With music in the forefront, as it should be. Every time that we get to work with an artist, it's really a pinch me moment, especially when we're working with our Artists for Action cause, which is centered around gun violence prevention, mental health, social isolation, and connection. Anytime that we kind of bring an artist into the fold there and have a live experience and have a shared dialogue on this topic, I think it's total pinch me. I can't believe I'm here, making an impact in the world in some form or fashion. And music being the great connector, what else can bring us together better than that?
Yeah, but you actually have a background in music. You spent years as a songwriter. Did that gift give you like a sixth sense when a room is lying to itself? Are you listening for emotional dissonance the way a dog hears frequencies humans pretend aren't there?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty high EQ when it comes to dealing with artists and musicians and humans in general, just because of my background. I started a band in freshman year of high school with my current partner in Artists for Artists and Artists for Action, I was the singer and guitar player, and he was the drummer.
What genre?
It was alternative rock, and we had some good success with this band that ended up taking us around the world, touring, releasing records, being on the radio, on TV, etc. And, that's where, dare I use the word empathy as well, but I could be very empathetic with artists nowadays, and that's kind of the genesis of it. But when we had this whole experience of touring around the world and then kind of came back down to earth and had parallel career paths in the music industry, this is Neil, my partner, and I, we decided to come back together to reshape the band in a different format, this time with Artist for Artist being the vehicle, and we've been doing this ever since
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would get full credit for the meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
2018.
For those that don't know anything about the music industry, often artists are treated like accessory in the industry, which is weird. Garnish, the inspirational equivalent of parsley on a plate of beige marketing noodles. You actually put artists at the center, which in agency land is the equivalent of rotating the entire solar system around a different sun. And for those who don't know anything about the music industry, that sounds strange, that artists have not always been put first. So what are the sacred carved in stone, you shall not cross these lines of an artist's first engagement?
I think you have to be, number one, very respectful of the artist's time and them lending themselves to whatever project you're working on. So that's the first step. The second step is kind of having that empathetic angle of like, you know, would I want to do this? Is this going to make me cringe? Like, do I want to put the artist in this situation? And if the answer is yes, then you have to kind of navigate and circumvent that from happening. And then just comfortability. So if we're kind of running point on the event or the activation or whatever we're doing at the time, making sure that we create that human connection with the artist, and they don't just see us as either a talent buyer or a facilitator. We're there as their, you know, I'm also an artist, so we kind of have that in common, and it's an easy place to start from.
So why do you think agencies keep making the same mistake over and over, like watching someone keep on going into a glass door over and over again? And you've seen this probably in Manhattan.
Yeah, lots of people running into glass doors. I think they're making the mistake because they're not coming from the place that I've come from. And again, the dirty word empathy, but I think it really applies in this situation. Understanding how to tackle these situations, whatever comes up in whatever project you're working on, there's always going to be something. And it's how do you handle it from there, and that kind of determines the success of the overall project, how you handle these little fires that need to be put out.
Yeah, so why do most brands don't want it to be artist-led? Are they worried to get like Lord of the Flies energy or something?
I think that sometimes it's the cancel culture of today is the factor. So if you could get somebody today and then tomorrow they're on the newspaper saying XYZ happened and, you know, it kills your campaign. So I think that there's that fear.
Right, but doesn't every brand say, and speaking as a former CMO and one working in the agency world, we want to go bold?
And you're saying an artist would not be going bold?
Artists would be bold.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet they're so scared of them.
Yeah, I think in a world of vanilla, we're trying to be a little bit more fudge sundae and a little bit more delicious, and taking those chances, taking those risks, educated risks, and creating really something that really special and impactful.
So you also believe that attention to detail is the most misunderstood concept in industry. So why does the industry keep botching detail like it's optional, and how does a meticulous craftsmanship turn a campaign from competent to amazing?
I think the devil's in the details. Always, I think, thinking, I know that, if we're working with artists, thinking, I know this artist likes the blue M&Ms in the, in the
right.
basket, and that's going to make all.
We've all heard about those writers. We've all heard those writers say the blue M&Ms.
Critical. They want to know that you're paying attention to details, and if some small detail like that is off, then they know, this guy's going to screw this up, and it's not going to be a positive experience. Also, relying on other people to get stuff done outside of our organization is always a bit challenging. So we always want to be very close to the situation when we're dealing with high-level talent or high-level.
Can you give me an example where details saved your ass?
An example where details saved our ass. Off the top of my head, I think we were doing an activation at South by Southwest, which is one of our tentpole activations throughout the year that we've been doing annually for a very, very long time. And one of the artists, after months of negotiating terms, had requested a screen, which is, if you know how South by Southwest works, everything's kind of like rented out, and this was the day before that they had this change in request. And even though
you have you have to use the union for everything.
You have to use that, and then also just there's no inventory because everything's already taken. So we bootstrapped, and in addition to all the other details that we had ironed out, figured out a way to make it happen and kind of circumvented the the normal channels and thought creatively about it. And my partner Neil was able to come up with a solution in less than 24 hours.
So do you think
it made the experience for the artist and for the crowd, which really elevated the whole thing.
Sometimes I think good enough might be the new religion. Do you think that detail will ever make a comeback?
Eric Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
Comeback?
I think we're there. I think in a world of AI and everybody kind of just plugging stuff in and spitting stuff out, I think there's something to be said about people spending the time to craft very high level, very detailed, very thoughtful experiences. And that's where we're doubling down with Artist for Artist, is we're saying, here, everybody could kind of go over here for the AI driven experiences and, trying to push that lever. I think we're going to lean into the human side, and how do we create the best experience that has the human touch to it and connects us as humans.
Well, you've said that empathy is an overlooked superpower that actually could fix half the industry's mess.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that if you and it's the golden rule, right? Like, if you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, treat somebody else as you'd want to be treated. I think that applies to any industry. I can't think of one that it doesn't apply to, or just on a human, friends, family level. If you kind of come back to that concept, I think a lot of things can be figured out.
So how, in a world of AI where it can mimic almost everything except sincerity, how does empathy become a rare premium skill?
That's what we're trying to figure out now. I think it's how do you scale these shared experiences and the detail in them. What's the method that you could use to actually create it where it's still scalable but still has the same amount of detail put into each activation, and that's something that we're working on now.
Who exhibits the lowest empathy per capita? A, venture capitalists. B, creative directors on day 3 of a pitch. Or C, anyone who uses the phrase synergy stacked unironically.
Synergy stacked unironically.
Yes, of course, that's the answer. If you could inject empathy directly into the bloodstream of marketing industry, what measurable change would happen first?
I think that if you were to inject empathy into the system, I think that you'd have a lot of people that would be a lot more understanding of everything that goes on in the background in terms of the deal-making process, in terms of leading up to activations, in terms of the experience itself. I think when there's teams that work really well together, I think that that's everything. For instance, we just led an Impact Summit for Music Education in Graceland, and we worked with one of my favorite teams that I've worked with so far, the Tallman Family Office and Let Music Fill My World. And the goal was to bring together all the leading music education nonprofits in the country together to set a shared agenda for 2026. And so we brought the CEOs and the executive directors all together. And just working with this team at this family office was just such a positive experience that, that kind of translated to the actual gathering and the convening of all these people together, and I feel like that translated and really kind of doubled down on our goals of what we wanted the outcomes to be. It was greater than we had expected.
So your answer to my question about who's your Yoda was an amalgamation of mentors, but kind of came closest to Yoko Ono. That's not just intriguing, that's like a Rorschach test. So let's break this down. What did Yoko Ono teach you directly or through presence about art, culture, leadership, or fearlessness that guides you today?
So I worked with Yoko Ono for a number of years with the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus, which is a mobile recording studio and production facility that travels around the country and works with students to create original projects. We've also done a lot of experiential marketing with it, working with partners like Apple and Canon and Yamaha. I think what I took from Yoko in my interactions with her was that you got to put yourself out there, as she did, and we did. We kind of reimagined the Bed In for Peace. I don't know if you're familiar, for Yoko and John's honeymoon. They decided instead of, going to some fancy place, they ended up inviting the press to their bed. And a bunch of people thought,
Still,
oh my God,
it's still iconic.
iconic moment.
I can, close my eyes and see it.
Yeah, and what's going to happen? Oh my God, we're going to the bed. We're going to see them doing X, Y, Z. And then they used it as
that nice apartment near Park Avenue. Near the park. I'm sorry.
No, it was in Amsterdam.
Oh wow! I thought it was like their apartment in.
And they decided to use that moment of publicity as a promotion for peace. And my takeaway from that was you may find these promotional opportunities in unexpected places and kind of use the platform that you have to the greatest extent, kind of coming up with these creative ideas. And I think that Yoko was at the forefront of that as an artist and as an activist, and that's what I've admired about her.
So is there a moment you made a decision at AFI where everyone said that screamed Yoko energy?
It definitely screamed Yoko energy when we parked the Lennon bus at City Hall and invited Ringo Starr, Yoko Ono, Jeff Bridges, a.k.a. The Dude, and the then Mayor Bill de Blasio to get in bed together to promote student activism at City Hall. And we kind of did our own bed-in, and I remember Ringo saying as he was in bed with Yoko, this is the first time I've ever gone to bed with Yoko. And that was an Yoko moment.
That's surreal.
Yeah.
What do agencies consistently misunderstand about avant-garde influence? Why do they treat it like wallpaper instead of a philosophy?
I think that you learn a certain set of rules in the game, whether you're going to school or whether you're learning within the industry, and it's set for these pretty strict parameters of what you can do and what you can't do. And I think that the people who really win big are the people that step outside of that, kind of the rule breakers and the people that want to break the mold and not try to fit something into the mold but create something from scratch. And we have a friend that we just had lunch with yesterday who was telling us about a campaign where he saw a Reddit post about Michael Cera possibly being the owner of CeraVe. So they pitched an idea to CeraVe for a Super Bowl ad of having Michael Cera be in the CeraVe commercial. And I'm like, that's freaking genius.
Yes.
And so it's moments like that are just so genuine and cool and out of the box and kind of break the mold a bit that are really impactful.
So if you had to pick one trait for the next generation's creative Yoda, would it be radical honesty, B, artistic chaos, or C, strategic clarity?
I have to say all of them. I don't think there's a world where you could silo those those different phrases. I think they all have to work together to form something. So there's different parts and different campaigns where you're in each of those modes, and you kind of gotta, switch gears through each of those cycles.
So what's the single piece of wisdom from your Yoda lineage that you want the industry to stop screwing up?
The single piece of advice would be to get out of your way when there's something that has momentum. I think momentum is the number one gut factor that you have on your side. If you see something kind of like pointing you in a certain direction and leading you there, I think kind of go with the instinct there. And momentum could be the difference between something great and then the momentum killer is something that really, really detracts from whatever you're trying to do.
So speaking of lineage, we're going to put you on a beach with your family and test your survival instincts. You, for some reason, chose your wife, your kids, and your parents to be with you on a desert island. It sounds wholesome and lovely. But let's imagine the island is real, the heat is brutal, and coconut water becomes a currency. Who becomes the accidental dictator? Who becomes the emotional glue? And who ends up inventing a new holiday out of boredom?
I would say my wife would be the dictator.
Right.
She would determine exactly what we need to do, put the plan in. Yeah.
Is she listening to this? Is she going to listen to you call her a dictator?
I hope so.
Okay.
She'd give me a pass. The kind of one who would be goofing off in the corner is my son Phoenix, just because he's a goof. And then what was the emotional glue? Definitely my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Does she play an instrument?
My mom. So the funny story with my lineage here is that my grandmother is deaf from birth.
Okay.
We don't really have any music.
So is that, I'm gathering that might be a no.
Well, it's that's on my dad's side, actually. But my mom has toyed around with piano. My dad, had a band in high school where he played Farfisa keyboard, but it was like very much a hobby and kind of went away quickly. So there's not like not a huge amount of music, but I guess it was always around. My parents liked music. It was always, a part of life in some form or fashion.
Is there any moment in your life where anyone in that group has proved they'd thrive on a desert island?
Some people like the heat. I think that some people like being cornered in that place. I think my wife is actually one of those people where, put her there with no resources and she'll kind of like figure it out. And I think she actually thrives in that environment.
So is there any way the family first instinct maps onto your leadership style in business, loyalty, trust, or knowing exactly who panics first?
I'd like to think that I always stay calm in whatever situation. That's kind of like one of our traits that people have acknowledged in working with us is that, oh my God, I can't believe how calm you are now. And I guess sometimes maybe to a fault, but yeah, I think that it's important to keep your composure around clients and artists and talent. I think that once it's like when you're sitting on an airplane and you kind of look to the flight attendant, if it's getting like a little rocky, and then you look to the flight attendant, you're like, are they kind of like seeing what I'm seeing? And then you look at them and they're totally composed and it's like, oh no, we're fine.
Right. So it's week 3. Who do you think snaps first? One of the parents, one of the kids, or you?
Definitely the kids, without a doubt. Parade into Phoenix, done within probably a minute.
Is it like no electronic devices?
No electronic devices, just anything. Anything will bother them.
A bottle washes ashore asking for a single marketing principle that will rebuild society. What do you write, knowing it might actually define culture for a generation?
Lead with your heart. Lead with people first. The goal, or part of the reason that we're here is to connect with one another. And how do we get closer to understanding one another? We all want to know why we're here. I think that part of the answer lies in discussions like these, how we see the world and how our differences can drive us apart, but there's so much that could connect us.
So you said your superpower would be being a real superhero for your kids. What do you think they actually see in you on a normal Tuesday?
I think on a normal Tuesday, they'll see this silly guy who's just tickling them to death. And, I think they look at me as the big comedian in the house, and their mom is the more strict one, but they're very into superheroes, and it would be amazing if I could actually be a real superhero. They're super into Spider-Man and all that. So, I mean, I
know absolutely nothing about comics and superheroes.
I bet. How many kids do you have?
I have 3 adult kids, and then I have 2 adopted kids, a stepson and another son.
So even better than me.
Yeah, about children. Yeah, I've done it for a long time.
Yes, mine are 4 and 5 years old.
So how do you think this reshaped your sense of ambition? Did it sharpen you or soften you?
I think it definitely sharpens everything about me. You mean having kids?
Yeah, being a father.
Yeah, I think it put a lot of things into perspective. It really definitely drove me to found Artists for Action, which is our initiative that we started with my friend Mark Barden, who was a professional guitar player before his 7-year-old son Daniel was shot and killed at Sandy Hook Elementary, at which point he left music altogether and founded Sandy Hook Promise. And then, I met him 2020 at the Grammys, and it was the month before I had my first kid. And we worked on a project together. And then post-project, after I saw more school shootings pop up, because I now had children of my own, and also his story just resonated with me before that, I said, we need to do something. And I think that I attribute my children to that, starting this initiative.
So what version of you think is the most brutally accurate? The artist, the founder, or the dad?
You can't get one without the other. I'm a full human being. Each of those is a part of me. It gets activated at different points, but also at the same time interweaved into every decision and every move I make. I don't think that there's actually a move that I make that doesn't include all 3 of the things that you mentioned. I bring art into all my parenting, and I bring art into my founder card. I think that as a full human being, it's a buildup of all the experiences that you've had in your life, and how you bring certain instances to the forefront at different times. But I think they're all there together working.
So last but not least, if you could leave a voicemail to your teenage younger self while you're starting that band, the musician who didn't yet know where the journey was headed, what's one warning you would give him?
Be adaptable. Understand that there's no linear path to success here. There's going to be a road that takes you and winds around in all different ways that you didn't know that this road could go, even though it seemed pretty straightforward at the time. Life is about the journey,
as trite as that is. And it's beautiful when you don't know exactly what's going to happen next.
The last part is we make everyone dance.
To any music, or I'm just dancing?
Well, I have.
That was Matthew Reich. Proof that empathy isn't soft, it's strategy. And that sometimes the best marketing move is just being human. Big thanks to Troutman Amin LLP, the TCPA experts who keep your campaigns compliant and your lawyers calm. And to incremental.com, because if you can't measure it, you're just guessing. I'm Pesach Lattin. Stay bold, stay curious, and know more.